Absolutely. So then he gets into verse 6 here, and this is where he gets to that part of being amazed at how the churches of Galatia are deserting Jesus, deserting Christ for what he calls a different gospel. And here he appeals to the original gospel preached to Galatians and is saying, we preach this to you, and now other people are trying to pervert it, and you're listening to them. Mm-hmm. Right. And this is where he gets kind of interesting, is he then talks about even if an angel from heaven should come and preach to you something different, you should not believe it. Right.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting theological thought.
Yeah.
But again, we know that, Satan was technically an angel.
Yeah.
Right?
Satan and all the demons are simply fallen angels. Yeah.
Right. So somebody that is wrapped in light could come to you with a different gospel. Somebody with something that seems pleasing or seems right to you could come with supernatural presence and say, this is actually the gospel. And Paul's like, don't believe that. You have to know that this testimony is the true one. And he even goes on to say that if we, he kind of starts there, but he says, if we, himself and the brothers that are with him, if we preach something different than what we previously preached to you, no longer follow us.
Yeah.
Because we've missed the plot.
Yeah, I mean, what he is saying here, and I mean, this is it's kind of a, how do I put it? What I'm about to say here, it's one of those things that's controversial. But what he's saying is like there is an absolute truth here.
Yes.
Whether I say it or I change my mind now, or not change my mind, but what I am telling you now is 100% will always be, no matter what anybody says, the 100% truth.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if I come to you differently and say it, if an angel that was literally in heaven 30 seconds ago comes and tells you something different.
Yeah.
It is not true. What we are saying is the 100% God's honest, I mean, literally and figuratively, to use a phrase, the 100% truth. There is no other way but what we are telling you now.
Yeah, but it sounds like the Galatians couldn't handle the truth.
Yeah, they're a little Tom Cruise-y.
Yes, right. Yeah, Jack Nicholson came in and
it's like you can't. No.
So then he goes on here, and he's pretty intense here, because he says anyone who preaches a contrary gospel is to be accursed. And then he does what he does when he thinks something's important. He repeats it and says, I say to you again, anyone preaching a gospel contrary to what you previously received is to be accursed. Yeah. Now, this is interesting language, but it's actually very poignant for the context. Mm-hmm. As we're going to see as we go through Galatians here, is the people who are perverting the gospel are ultimately those who still follow the original Jewish faith. Yeah. And they are coming to them and saying, no, you have to be through the law. You have to be redeemed through the law. You have to come to the law. So you have to do all the things like get circumcised or eat specific foods or follow specific calendars, all of those types of things. Yeah. And that's how you find salvation, right? And what does the law do? What Paul brings out later, the law is what curses us. Yeah. And we see that then Jesus becomes a curse for us to redeem us from the law. So this is really, again, Paul is using very specific language here to tie every theme together throughout this book.
Yeah, and I think it's important that he know that, like, this is serious business. Like, if somebody if somebody comes and teaches you something that is contrary to what the gospel of Jesus Christ really is, that's a serious crime. Yes. That's not a misdemeanor. That's not a, hey, you can get out on bail for good behavior. That is a 100% felony, life in prison kind of deal. Like, it is a serious crime to preach anything other than what is the true gospel of Christ.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because life and death are at stake there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not like, hey, you turn left and you turn right and it takes you 2 hours longer to get to where you're going, but you get there eventually. Like, there is only one way, and it is through Jesus. And that you're talking about eternity. Like, if you don't truly understand why Jesus died on a cross for you and why he did, and if you don't fully accept that, that is a eternal punishment. There is no reset or undo.
Yeah, and you could say that to preach contrary to the work of Jesus Christ is to be anti-Christ.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're making yourself an enemy of God.
Yeah.
And that is not a position.
No, never a good play. It never turns out well for people in the Bible who are labeled as that.
Absolutely.